On today's episode, we talk Disney World attractions March Madness style. Welcome to the 15th episode of the MousekaBros podcast. Hi, I'm Ryan.
And I'm his brother Randy. Be sure to like us on Facebook at the MousekaBros. We will be releasing new episodes every Friday, so make sure you subscribe to get the latest podcast. If you have any suggestions for upcoming shows or just want to say hi, you can email us at mousekabrospodcast@gmail.com.
If you're planning your next Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, or Universal Orlando vacation, you're going to want to reach out to me, Ryan Noppinger, with Capture the Magic Vacations. You can reach me at ryan.noppinger@ctmvagent.com. This is a no-cost-to-use service to use me as your travel agent. I'll make sure you get the best vacation package or deal for your whole family. I can also help make dining reservations and plan fast passes to make planning your Disney vacation less stressful and more magical.
We have a rules episode that explains a little more in depth of how we are going to complete this March Madness bracket. It also has how we picked out the matchups. So if you haven't listened to that, please, I suggest you listen to that first. Go check that out. For a quick overview, we have randomly selected 64 teams as Disney World attractions that Ryan and myself will talk about. We'll pick a winner on the matchup. If there's a tie, we have to go to our point sheet, but if you really want the in-depth point sheet, please listen to that rules episode. And we'll keep doing that until we're left with a champion. So in this episode, we'll cover just the first 16 matches in round one. That brings our total of 64 attractions down to 48. And then our next episode will be the last 16 matches in round one. I mean, it's already episode 15. We're already in March. So it's...
And this will actually carry us all the way to the end of March. So we'll have 5 episodes roundabout. If you haven't listened to the March Madness special rules, I kind of break down which episode is going to air when. But right now, it's just the first 16 matches of round one. So let's get right into it. If you're following on your sheet at home or... I guess in the car. I don't know why you have it in the car.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
We don't promote that.
If you could look at it on your computer at work if you're doing that. I don't know. On your mobile phone. Well, in the restroom.
All right. Going to our first match at the upper left corner. That is the Seas with Nemo and Friends versus the Grand Fiesta Tour starring the Three Caballeros. Right, you can go first.
I want to say right off the bat, to me it seems like, yeah, there's a clear winner just because...
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there. We're going to cut that out. We're not going to say that at all because I feel like we always say for our Love It, Hate It, Update It that we're always going to like agree or it's going to be interesting and then we start talking and disagree. So we're not going to say that statement anymore. Continue with your statement.
Okay. Well, I'm still going to say, and the reason because I feel that, the Seas with Nemo and Friends would win this one just because the Three Caballeros aren't, I guess, a bigger IP out of the two attractions. If I had, if I guess a lot of these decisions you have one day at Walt Disney World, what would you want to go ride?
Out of the two.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it'd be the Seas with Nemo and Friends. It's even though they're both part of kind of a bigger attraction, if that makes sense, because Nemo is in, I guess, the Living with the Seas, that whole pavilion there, and the Grand Fiesta Tour is in the Mexico Pavilion at Epcot. So that's an interesting fact, I guess, for both of them. I didn't think about that before.
That they're both in
pavilions. Yeah, other attractions. Pavilions.
They're both in pavilions.
Pavilions. I think, but still, regardless, I would do the Seas with Nemo and Friends. I love the movie Nemo. I love Finding Dory. Both those movies are great. I just think now the Grand Fiesta Tour just needs an update.
So originally, the Grand Fiesta Tour didn't even have the 3 Caballeros in it. It was just it was like a boat ride, like it's a small world through just Mexico. It still is that,
right?
But there was no IP in it. So I feel like they like put an IP in that ride to kind of like equate to
liven it up a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
To put, I know who Donald Duck is.
Right, and like, I want to see him in a ride.
Right.
So that is kind of sad. Talking about wait times, I mean, I think each one is a walk-on. On a busy day, I think Seas and Nemo's Friends has a longer line than a Grand Fiesta Tour.
Yeah,
I've never actually waited for the Grand Fiesta Tour. If I have, it's been a max of 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, and think about it too. The only reason you're waiting for the Grand Fiesta Tour is because the queue is as big as the room we're in now, which is very small.
Right.
So, if it has 10 people in it, you're waiting in line at the Grand Fiesta Tour.
Right, but it's only ever for 2 minutes. I mean, when Seas and Nemo and Friends came out, it was an hour wait, and that's an Omni mover. So for it to be a long wait, it really says something about the ride. But I mean, now I feel like they're both walk-ons.
I guess it depends all on the time of the season. If there's a festival going on, sure, I'm sure the Grand Fiesta Tour is busier because there's more people around the countries and in and out of the countries visiting them. But the Seas of Nemo and Friends, I think in the morning, busy.
Yeah, because it's like kind of up near the front.
Yeah, that's probably what you're going to want to get a fast pass for out of your first 3. And really in all the future road there, I think I'm going to pick that even before Journey into Imagination.
Yeah,
with
Figment,
I agree. Jumping ahead there, but I think it's the Seas with Nemo and Friends.
Yeah, I do agree. I think the Seas with Nemo and Friends is a better ride. I think it puts you into the ride. I think it puts you into the story so that you feel a part of the story. But like the Grand Fiesta Tour, I don't know. Like, yeah, they have the new animatronics at the end, but I think overall, from queue to the ride, I think it's just better with Seas with Nemo and Friends. So that will be the winner for that matchup.
Yep, moving on. So moving on is the Seas with Nemo and Friends. What? Yeah, moving on. Moving on.
Yeah, I gotcha. I was like, what? We just did that matchup. We're not doing that matchup again.
No, I'm just recapping. So moving on, the Seas with Nemo and Friends moved on. Who did not move on is the Grand Fiesta Tour. The next matchup is going to be an interesting one. We have Soarin' Around the World versus Space Mountain.
So 2 rides that are in the air.
2 rides that begin with
space.
S.
Yeah, there you go. That's how we link them together. I'll start this one off. They are both great rides. That's all I got. No.
Valid point.
Soarin' Around the World is much more of an attraction to me than Space Mountain, because Space Mountain just kind of puts you in a dark room and then has a very jerky ride. Yeah, it's cool because it feels like you're flying through space, I guess, but having that big screen there for Soarin' Around the World is like you really feel that you are flying.
Right.
It is Soarin' Around the World is also better than Soarin'. Because Soarin' was originally just soaring over California, so that's all you really saw was just California places. But now Soarin' Around the World takes you around the world, go figure. So you get to see more of the world. Comparing Space Mountain to the one in Disneyland, ours definitely is way worse. It is more jerky. While it might be a little bit longer, Disneyland has a more roller coaster feel because it's fast and turns, but this one was made before all the computers and software that they had.
Yep.
So for me, I'm saying Soarin' Around the World.
Yeah, had this matchup been just soaring around, above California versus Space Mountain, I feel like I'd be again leaning more towards Space Mountain, just because of. I mean, how many times can you really soar over California?
Right.
But Soaring Around the World is a complete new aspect on Soarin' using the same ride system, yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on Soarin' Around the World. Everybody can get on that ride. Everybody. Not a lot of people are going to be on Space Mountain, because the size of the car, they're smaller cars. It's not a regular roller coaster car, versus Soarin', where again everybody can get on it. I feel like everybody can enjoy Soarin' Around the World. To me, it's
definitely it's a family ride. I mean, even after riding Space Mountain a couple of times at 22, 23, it's very. You feel it after a couple times.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, even after one time, you're like, whoa. But Soaring Around the World gives you that experience, like, oh, did I miss something? Like, let me get on it again.
Rewritability, there it is.
And the smells, too. I hate to say that, but the smells, I've been in multiple situations where I smell something.
And like every day, you're like, oh, Soarin', am I on Soarin'?
Or like, oh, that significant smell puts me back in Disney World. Mm-hmm. Like the other day, as a complete side story, me and my wife, we were sniffing. This is a very weird story, but we were sniffing.
Just around the house?
We looked at each other and we were just like, is that a Disney World smell that we're smelling right now? I'm trying to remember the attraction, and I know as she's listening to this episode, she's going to be like, it was blah, blah, blah. But I can't remember what it was. But anyway, moving on to the next matchup.
All right. It is Mission Space versus Mickey's PhilharMagic. Again, 2 rides that begin with M.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Take it away, Ryan.
I know. For Mission Space, there's the green version, the green experience,
which is like the lesser version,
the less,
which is, and then
the orange, which is the more intense. That's the word I was looking for. Fine. So yeah, at first when this ride debuted, they only had one version of the ride, and it was intense, and that's all it was. Mm-hmm. But now since there's 2 experiences, I don't know. It's yes, it is more family friendly with that, but again, not a whole lot of people can still ride this because it is enclosed dark spaces, and it's still a flight simulator. Where again, Mickey's PhilharMagic, it's a 3D show about Mickey and all of the beloved
it's really about
movies.
Donald, but
if
we're getting technical.
Donald, but Mickey's in it, and the whole gang's in it, really.
Right, and it goes through all of the classic movies.
Yeah, and for me, that's why Mickey's PhilharMagic's going to win this one.
Yeah, the thing that throws me off the most is that Mission Space is just 4 people, and you really can't fail a mission. Like, if you don't hit a button, it kind of hits it for you. If you could, fail mission, or if there was, more buttons that you had to press other than the 2 buttons that each person gets, I think it would be kind of cooler because it would feel more like a flight simulator.
Right.
But yeah, Mickey's PhilharMagic it's a family show. I mean, the first time you see it, it's, when the screen opens up wide, and it's incredible. Having kind of the 4D effects is awesome. Having that wind, the smells, and the water. Luckily, nothing touches your feet or anything. I know you don't like that. So I think that's why Mickey's PhilharMagic would also win for me.
All right. Well, so it's been said. Mickey's PhilharMagic is moving on. The next matchup, I'll just move right along. It's going to be It's a Small World versus Alien Swirling Saucers. This is an interesting one, I guess, for me. Alien Swirling Saucers is a copy of another ride in California Adventure. Tomater's Spin, I think.
Something like that.
But it's Tomater themed. This is the first of this attraction in Disney World, which is interesting. It's to relate it to something that's like the Scrambler at any type of,
but not as intense as the Scrambler, not as kind of stomach turning. As the
you get that little wee and little giggles here and there as you go around and being whipped around. Again, though, It's a Small World. It's very much a classic, And I guess where it's hard for this one is the rewritability. It's a Small World. You write it once, and the song is stuck in your head for forever. Alien Swirling Saucer, like, yeah, you get on it, and you're like, oh yeah, that was kind of fun and giggity. I can get on it again. Had this been a matchup between It's a Small World with the Disneyland version, I'd probably lean more towards that. But for me, Alien Swirling Saucer is going to move forward on this one.
While I don't like It's a Small World, just because it, like you said, it is very annoying with the song. It gets stuck in your head, which I don't know if annoying is the right word. But just the nostalgia from It's a Small World, I think I'm leaning towards that more because
that's where I kind of was in the middle between them.
Alien Swirling Saucers is already breaking down, and the paint's already chipping in Toy Story Land, so it's not keeping up, and it's only been out not even a full year yet.
Yeah.
If it was like a different ride that they copied, yeah, it would be different. And then if it was Small World versus literally anything else, I think I would go with the other thing. But I think for this one, I'm going to go with It's a Small World. So that brings us to our first tie. So we are going to go to our point sheet.
Yep. All right. So It's a Small World and Alien Swirling Saucer. So Alien Swirling Saucer, the average of what we have rated it altogether is 6.5.
And It's a Small World is 8 points.
Nice.
So that means that It's a Small World will move forward, and Alien Swirling Saucers will be eliminated.
Yeah. Wow. So the next matchup, okay. So it is Living with the Land versus Star Tours. The adventure continues. Another interesting one for me. I do love Living with the Land. I don't know why, but I do. It's one of the almost last remaining attractions from opening day. Star Tours that, I guess if Star Wars Land wasn't coming and this was the only Star Wars attraction, that would be interesting. But, looking forward at Star Wars Land, this attraction is going to get lost real quick, even more because it's not incorporated into the land whatsoever, which also makes it very interesting. I'm going to have to move forward with Living with the Land.
Kind of to that point, I wonder if they'll either extend like the exit to Star Tours, so like you take the Star Tours and you end in Star Wars Galaxy Edge, so that'd be interesting, or if they just get rid of it or move it or something, I don't know. I do like the updates that they've kind of had. It was the same story, but now it has that updates to where it's can be any story that you get. You can get like 38 different stories or something like that.
Yeah, well, right now, to weigh your decision, maybe. Right now, I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but the first sequence is random.
Okay.
The second sequence is, kind of the scene from the new movie Flying Through Jakku.
Okay.
And then you land as you're landing into, I can't remember the planet name, but Star Wars Land,
right,
is where you're landing at.
Okay.
To make it look like, oh yes, after I'm done here, I'm going to get off and go into Star Wars Land. Which,
right.
No, you're going back into Hollywood Studios,
and then have to enter Star Wars Land again.
And then enter Star Wars Land. So, again, looking forward to Star Wars Land for me, it's like this ride is completely lost because look at the gift shop, for example. It's very much like a set.
Yeah,
and so is the whole front of Star Tours.
Right, because what it originally was putting you into the movie. That's what the whole idea was. Hollywood Studios was, but now with all of these new,
it's more
lands,
immersion.
It's kind of losing the idea of what Hollywood Studios was. All right, I think you swayed me. I think I'm going to go with Living with the Land.
Nice.
So Living with the Land moves forward.
Nice.
And Star Tours does not. Moving on to the next matchup, we have Splash Mountain versus Primeval Whirl.
For me on this one, it's really do I feel like getting wet or not? Is the purpose of if I want to ride Splash Mountain or not? If it's cold out, the answer is going to be no. I do not want to get on Splash Mountain because you won't get wet; you'll get drenched.
Yeah, because nobody will be on it. So
yeah. And then Primeval Whirl, yes, it is just like the mouse, but the car spins, which I don't know why I get so like a child on this ride. It makes me feel like a child again, but I like the mouse in other theme parks, even though it's like a very simple roller coaster. But the spinning makes you feel like you're flying off the edge, which is cool. But again, Splash Mountain is one of those classic kind of rides when you think of
it's a log
Magic
flume.
Kingdom and
but
Frontierland.
But to that point, it's a log flume ride. I mean, that's what it is. Like every amusement park has some sort of log flume ride.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong; it's way better themed at Disney,
right?
But that's what it is. For me, the Primeval Whirl, that's really not original. They just put a couple things around the track to make it, I guess, look like you're traveling through time. But it is a mouse that spins, and they have that in other amusement parks.
Yeah.
I think Splash Mountain makes it a little more original with all of the animatronics and the songs, and there's more story.
Right.
Plus, Splash Mountain is something that everybody in the family can do. I feel like Primeval Whirl, if you get motion sickness, you would get sick from this ride.
Dizzy almost instantly.
I am going with Splash Mountain. I think that is better than Primeval Whirl.
I'll agree with you. I agree with all of that, even though I do like Primeval Whirl had the matchup in different.
But yeah, I just think Splash Mountain is better than Primeval Whirl.
Yeah, I'll agree. Next matchup, another interesting one. Country Bear Jamboree versus Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. Both shows, both in the Magic Kingdom, one in Adventureland, one in Frontierland.
I think if I'm not mistaken, which I probably am, are they both original to the park?
I know Tiki Room is more, I think...
Yeah, Country Bear Jamboree is 1971.
Huh. And Enchanted Tiki Room should be 1971
yeah,
too.
It should be. I can't find it on
that
my
was
sheet.
Tropical Serenade first, actually.
Right.
And then the name changed to Enchanted Tiki Room. I mean, for me, out of both of these, again, I would go see them maybe once each on a trip, and that's about it. As far as rewritability goes, I mean, they're both classic attractions, but because they're both classic, and if I had to pick to go see a classic show, it would probably be Enchanted Tiki Room.
Okay, I disagree. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat that I like, out of the two, I would rather go see Country Bear Jamboree, because once they get into like a song, like everyone in the theater starts clapping and like laughing. I liked Enchanted Tiki Room under new management better, because it had the goddess in the middle. It had much more of a story, having
Iago and Zazu.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of their names, but it had much more of a story having those two in it. I also like that it kind of pulled in IPs. So, I don't know, you could like kind of relate to the songs. I mean, you go to the show once and you know the songs.
Yeah.
So that really isn't a really good point. But I think the under new management had a better story. So if it was under new management, I think I would go with that. But since it's not, Country Bear Jamboree is original to the park, and it hasn't had any changes. It's had updates and refurbishments, but they really haven't changed the story. So it's like the same songs since 1971, and I think that's something to be said about that. So I'm going to go with Country Bear Jamboree.
Am I going to stick with mine?
I don't know. Are you?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's a deeper question for myself.
I think you need to decide.
I don't know. I'm kind of torn between both of them, because yes, I agree. I mean, they're both, again, original. We have said that already, but I'll say it again. Gosh, I don't don't know. I'm almost interested just to go to a tiebreaker because...
Just to do a tiebreaker?
Yeah, because I'm torn. I'll stick with my original and go with Enchanted Tiki Room.
Okay, so that brings us to the point sheet. So depending on which one has the most points will kind of decide our winner. So Country Bear Jamboree comes in at 5 points.
Ouch. I wonder why.
I think because I think one of the biggest things that was the rewritability. I think we both probably gave that a 1 because it doesn't have much rewritability. But based on the two attractions, I would say Country Bear Jamboree.
I gave it a 1.
So I think that's why.
What did you give it for family oriented?
I give it a 2.
Yeah.
Just because some of the jokes and might go over the kids' heads. I mean, they may not really understand what's happening with all of the animatronics, but so that's why I like.
Yeah, I gave it a 2 too. Yeah, and then it was a 4. So we tied on that one. So Enchanted Tiki Room averages out to 8 points.
So that settles that.
That settles that.
So Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room will move on, while the Country Bear Jamboree
is left behind.
Left behind because it has blood on the saddle.
Is this another singing portion of the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to the next matchup out of this quarter. So it's Astro Orbiter versus Dumbo the Flying Elephant.
So, I mean, these rides are basically the same. I mean, Astro Orbiter is just way up there, and Dumbo is kind of a dueling thing because it's 2 of them. I would say that my choice is Dumbo the Flying Elephant just because they use that on commercials. They use Astro Orbiter on commercials, but it's only sometimes.
No, I think Darth Vader have like a picture in it.
Yeah,
of him.
Yeah.
I think it was on a T-shirt.
Yeah, and he has like a Mickey ice cream and stuff, and like it's funny. But I just, for nostalgia reasons, am going Dumbo the Flying Elephant.
Yeah, I mean, Astro Orbiters is very neat because it's up on another higher platform. You have to take an elevator to get to the attraction. From everything that I recall, it's always busy. Because you have to take an elevator. You have to take an attraction to get on an attraction. An elevator to get onto the ride, which just makes it longer because they can't fit capacity on it all the time. With Dumbo, I mean, they're dueling Dumbos now, which is very, very cool. I do this ride every single time. I go to Magic Kingdom. Well, not every single time I go to Magic Kingdom, but at least every time I go on vacation to Disney World, I make it a point to ride Dumbo at least once.
I can't really remember the last time we rode Astro Orbiters.
I can't either.
I will say, like, I kind of had a thought, but it goes kind of for both. You know, for Dumbo, you're already in Fantasyland. So if you get it right, you get that nice selfie with the castle behind you while you're on Dumbo, which is kind of cool.
It's all about that selfie life.
But at the same time, Astro Orbiter is higher, so you get more view of the park.
Yeah.
But the problem with Astro Orbiter is that it has so much around it. It has all of the planets and stuff that you're kind of looking at.
I know.
I'm sticking with my gut. I'm going Dumbo.
No, I'm going to go with Dumbo too, just because, I mean, again, I do it every time, every vacation. Astro Orbiters I haven't done in quite some time that I'll probably end up putting back on my list to do because of this. But, Dumbo definitely has it for me on this one.
So that actually completes our Division 1, in quotes. So that's the first 8 matches. Yep. And now we kind of move on to the second half.
Yeah. So the first matchup of that is Pirates of the Caribbean.
Or Caribbean, depending on how you say it.
versus Tomorrowland Transit Authority People Mover. Go ahead.
I don't know. It's an interesting matchup because they are 2 completely different rides. So it's hard to compare.
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean really puts you into that story. So, which is cool. It has like a little drop in it, which is actually to go under the railroad tracks. And then it inspired an entire movie series, which then inspired the ride. Tomorrowland Transit Authority People Mover gives you great views that no other ride can really get you of Tomorrowland and kind of the surrounding areas. I mean, we just talked about Astro Orbiter, and you can say that it gives you those views, but really you're spinning in a circle very fast that you don't have time to look and appreciate the views.
Right.
I will say that Tomorrowland, the Transit Authority People Mover, that's a lot to say.
Yeah. You just call it People Mover.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. It is kind of stale almost. It's getting stale. I'll say that. That I feel like it needs an update. I mean, Tomorrowland just in general needs an update. But I mean, hopefully with Stitch's Great Escape getting out of there, there'll be an update in that section. I don't know. I like the joke that they have the Tom Morrow paging Mr. Tom Morrow.
Yes,
tomorrow.
For me, that attraction, the People Mover, is a very classic Tomorrowland attraction. If they redo Tomorrowland, this is one of the top attractions I actually hope they keep.
You don't want it to go to Rocket Rods?
No, please no. It is one I hope they keep just because it has that very, very much nostalgia to it. I mean, this is how people were supposed to be moving around.
Yeah.
Now.
Yes.
People back in the late 60s, early 70s, looking at transit for it, and actually, in this was the whole kind of background for Epcot. That Walt Disney wanted it to be a full working town, city practically, and these are the cars that you would get around and go to work and get home in, versus Pirates of the Caribbean, where, I mean, it's a classic Pirates of the Caribbean boat ride. I don't think that made any sense, but
anyway,
moving on. I just don't know.
I think I have my vote. I think my gut is telling me the People Mover, just because of the views that you get for the surrounding area. And I mean, it's hard to say because also another point is that they are both like a must-dos. Like when you go to Magic Kingdom, or like on your vacation, like you have to do both of them at least once.
Oh yeah, yeah. And if not Tomorrowland, if not the People Mover for short, multiple times, because even though it's the same ride, you're still going around and looking at other attractions and basically people watching.
And two, kind of on that is, the Pirates of the Caribbean is pretty much the same ride. I will say that I think it is personally worse than the Disneyland version, because Disneyland has like 2 drops that are pretty big. And I like that because it has kind of an extra scene.
Yeah.
Tomorrowland, the People Mover, is 2 different rides. You can ride one during the day or ride it at night, and you get a different experience, different views. So I think that right there just kind of seals the deal for me. People Mover.
I'll agree. Let's move it forward. People Mover, and Pirates of the Caribbean is being left behind.
I will say that the movies are good though.
Yeah, no, I mean the movies are good. I guess now it's big to differ if putting Jack Sparrow in the ride, I guess, was a good call. I mean, I know they had to do it, but is it relevant now?
Yeah.
Is a question.
Moving on to the next matchup, then it is Dinosaur versus Triceratops Spin.
I mean, do we even have to spend any time? Honestly,
just give me your answer.
3, 2, 1. Dinosaur.
Okay. I mean, Triceratops Spin is the same as Dumbo, the Magic Carpets, Aladdin Magic Carpets, which you haven't got to yet. It's the same as Astro Orbiter, but it is done worse. It seems like they didn't know what to put, so they put Triceratops Spin.
Yeah, because there's Dumbo and because there's Astro Orbiters, I actually have never been on this ride because I can ride Dumbo, and I enjoy Dumbo so much better than riding in a dinosaur, which I actually like dinosaurs a lot. So to get in one, anyway. But no, hands down, Dinosaur, great attraction. That's going to be an interesting matchup because now it's going to be Dinosaur versus the People Mover.
Yeah, that is interesting. Well, speaking of interesting, let's move on to probably one of the hardest matchups. We have Frozen Ever After versus Avatar Flight of Passage. Where do we begin?
I know. I don't know.
I miss Maelstrom. I will say that. It has a special place in my heart. However, Frozen Ever After is done way better than Maelstrom. I think the Maelstrom it was trying to do too much, and it didn't really get the point across for Norway. So I do like this ride in Norway better than Maelstrom.
Yeah, it's all about what you like. If you like getting more involved in the learning about the country aspect part of it, yeah, Maelstrom. If you want to see IPs, then yeah,
Right.
Frozen Ever After.
But like, I did like Maelstrom. I'm not saying that it was a horrible ride. I just
Right.
think how they did it. They were trying to cram too much. It was like trying to be its own little spaceship Earth, but just for Norway. So it was too much, and they couldn't go into too deep of a story. Flight of Passage, however, like completely puts you in the story. With its 2 pre-shows that it has.
Fly.
And then and then when you actually do fly, you have everybody kind of, what it seats like 10 people across. I don't know, it's probably wrong. But it seats
You're
like
probably close to that.
Probably
It's like-
about that, to be honest.
Maybe it's like a weird number, like
like
8,
yeah,
7.
yeah. But it sits 7 across, and it's like a Soarin', but you really can't tell who's next to you once the ride begins because you're looking straight and doing all of this motion. So I think I'm more excited for Flight of Passage, and I think that would be my answer.
I mean, if again, yes, 2 different rides. One's more of a thrill. One's a calm boat ride with a drop at the end.
Calm.
Flight of Passage, I mean, it just puts you in that whole realm of, I have never been on this ride before. It's a new experience. I have been on a boat ride. I've been on It's a Small World. Or in the past, I've been on the Maelstrom. And, that's it. And again, Frozen is one of those movies you either like or you don't like. And then if you like it, how many more times can you let it go? So for me again,
Ryan.
what? For me on this one, it's going to be Flight of Passage moving on. So Flight of Passage is moving on.
Yeah.
Frozen Ever After, we are letting it go, and it's left behind.
Okay, we're just gonna move on. So we have Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith and Walt Disney Presents. Again, do we have to talk about it?
No, I mean, you can put just Rock and Roller Coaster up there. We both really, really enjoy the ride. I will give, I guess, an honorable mention to Walt Disney Presents, a valiant effort. It is an interesting walkthrough. If you have never done it, it gives Walt Disney's history about it. Even before Toy Story Land, there was Toy Story Land like mock-ups. And right now there's actually Star Wars Land, Galaxy's Edge, matchups with it, like sets of it, of what it's going to look like. So it's quite interesting about it if you had never done it. At the end, then there's a movie where they either play a handful of things. It's either a new upcoming movie or it's a one man's dream kind of movie that Julia Andrews kind of narrates about Walt Disney. That it is very interesting to watch if you have never seen it. If you have walked by it and you're like, I don't want to walk through that, because yes, it is very much museum-esque, but for heaven's sakes, you're in Disney World. Learn about the man himself.
Yeah, I will say that if it was just originally one man's dream, I think it would be closer. But Walt Disney Presents, now they have the meet and greet there, in the kind of the back.
Yeah,
it's just,
now you used to be able to meet Star-Lord and Groot, and now it's Mike and Sully, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm not a fan of Walt Disney Presents, so I think it's just easy to say that Rock and Roller Coaster wins.
Yep.
Moving on to the next one is Twilight Zone Tower of Terror versus Muppet Vision 3D.
Hard one for me. I do like Tower of Terror. I used to not, and I'm sure you could probably tell that story.
It was what, you were 13 when you first got on it?
If not.
And I was like 5, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah, I was very much scared of this ride. Just because I guess I didn't know what was involved in it. It's dark. I mean, it's scary. You're going.
No,
into
no,
the
it is
Twilight Zone.
definitely
Yeah.
not a family-oriented ride. That if
Yeah.
you have little children that get scared, or if you're Katie Gersmeyer and you get scared easily, this is not a ride for you. But I think I get more excited for Tower of Terror just because of the thrill aspect, being pulled down faster than gravity and having that airless, couple of seconds. And Muppet Vision 3D, it's stale. It's a stale story. It's the same jokes. We can quote it and it's fun. It's funny to us, but I can see why somebody would be like, "Oh wow, this is kind of boring."
Yeah.
I think it needs an update. Especially now that it's seasonal.
I agree. If I had to, Muppet Vision 3D is one of those ones. Every time I go on a vacation to Disney World, I do it. I probably can repeat it. I do enjoy it, but rewritability. If I had to pick one after doing it, in the same day, it'd be Tower of Terror for me. So I'm gonna say Tower of Terror. I'm sad to see Muppet Vision 3D out in the first round. But
it lost to a good ride, though.
Yeah.
It's not like it lost to a bad ride.
No, yeah. So Tower of Terror.
Yeah, Tower of Terror moves on.
So the next matchup is Under the Sea Journey. What I can't read.
Journey of the Little Mermaid.
Yeah, it's a movie versus the Magic Carpets of Aladdin. Again, do we even have to
talk about it? Because
pick
just
one.
beating a dead horse. We'll do it on 3. 1, 2, 3. Under
Magic
the Sea.
Carpet.
Oh,
No, I'm kidding. No,
yeah,
I'm definitely kidding. Under the Sea definitely moves on this one. I'm glad to see the Little Mermaid now has a full-on Omnimover attraction that tells her story, which is awesome. The Magic Carpet, if you have never been on it, go ride Dumbo. It's much better.
Yeah, it's okay. If you've never been on it, you don't have to get on it.
Yeah. It's one of those copy and paste rides that they said, "Oh yeah, let's just put it here." So now to me, this one, Under the Sea for sure. Moving on to the second to last matchup is The Void,
Step Beyond Reality,
which is in Disney Springs, which is a VR experience, up against Liberty Square Riverboat. Again, this is not really a tough one.
No, but I think for me, you have to give credit where credit's due to the Liberty Square Riverboat, and that it is very unique. Getting on, a triple-decker boat like that and kind of going around, having somebody narrate what you're kind of looking at, is very, very different. It's a very unique ride, but that doesn't make it a good ride.
No, right. I mean, it's a boat ride. If you want to get on a boat, ride the ferry from the TTC over to Magic Kingdom.
But it's one of those things that if you haven't done it and you're kind of looking for those nostalgia rides,
yeah,
Liberty Square Riverboat
perfect.
would be.
I will say The Void at Disney Springs is an extra cost. It's extra. You have to pay for it. So it's not like included in your theme park ticket or anything like that. But to me, the experience of it is worth spending that extra dough.
Right. And since they're not keeping it the same, they were originally Star Wars, but now it's Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Well, it's both. They're doing both
at the same
time.
Oh.
Yeah, you can pick.
So like that is just, it's worth the extra cost just to go back and, redo a mission or, do something else.
Yeah, no, I've done it. We did it together, actually with our father.
Yes. And who gets very motion sickness, and he didn't really get motion sickness afterwards.
No, I think, especially a perfect case scenario, that for him, the excitement, outweighed his maybe getting a little bit nauseated or anything like that. But no, definitely The Void. If you have not done it and are questioning, is the extra cost worth it at least once? Yes, I have done it twice. And would probably do the Star Wars one a third time, even with, a different group of people or even the same group of people.
Just to see the reactions again, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun experience, and especially now that Ralph is in there breaking stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll definitely do that one again.
Now on to our last matchup of the first 32 teams. It is American Adventure versus The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. So 2 adventure rides. For me, I don't know. I think the American Adventure, just because we had the backstage magic tour, so we kind of saw how it operates, and knowing that the American Adventure really is on the 3rd story, even though it looks like it's only on the 2nd. I mean, all of the pavilions leading to America is actually in a slight incline, so that by the time you get to America, you don't even realize that you're on the 2nd story. So then when you go up another floor, you're on the 3rd story, but it doesn't feel like you are, which is incredible. And knowing that the whole show is ran by a big machine that moves under the audience and you have no idea, there's just something about that just makes me say, wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you sit down in your seat in the American Adventure Theater, all of the animatronics are under you. And the whole thing just slides forward. It brings up new animatronics, and then drops the animatronics, moves back, and just keeps going through it the whole entire show. All machine mechanically done, and all somebody has to hit at literally the front podium when they're telling you the spiel, no camera, no recording, blah, blah, blah. They hit start, and that literally starts this whole system of mechanics that is just absolutely awesome.
I will say that Winnie the Pooh, that was one of the first rides in Disney World that had the interactive queue. So that was pretty cool, having that interactive queue there.
Yeah.
And
to me,
gave you something to do.
Yeah, that's definitely an honorable mention in it. To me, definitely the American Adventure will move on. For this one, a fun fact about the Winnie the Pooh Adventure, when you're on the ride and you just get into Al's house and it's all in a rubble, as soon as you enter that room, actually, if you look to the left, there's a picture of Mr. Toad handing the deed over to Al, because that's actually where Mr. Toad's Wild Ride was before that.
Used to be. Interesting.
Yep.
That's cool.
So it's a cool, homage to Mr. Toad.
Yeah.
I wish he was still there, because it is a fun ride. You can still ride it in Disneyland, but Winnie the Pooh is... It's still fun, If I had
it's still a great ride.
Between both of them, that'd be difficult. But in this matchup right here, the American Adventure is moving on.
So that completes the first 32, or the first 16 matches. So just kind of quick overview of everything that moved on. We have the Seas with Nemo and Friends, Soaring Around the World, Mickey's PhilharMagic, It's a Small World, Living with the Land, Splash Mountain, Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room, Dumbo the Flying Elephant, Tomorrowland Transit Authority People Mover, Dinosaur, Avatar Flight of Passage, Rock and Roller Coaster, Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, Under the Sea Journey of the Little Mermaid, The Void, and the American Adventure.
Which one of these do you think you're most excited for the matchup?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think they're all very interesting matchups, and depending on how the discussion goes, it's just, I don't know. There's not, going into round 2 for this side, there's not a lot of clear winners for the matches.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe towards the bottom, but
even then, I think if the debate goes the right way, I think it still could be a tie.
Yeah, the middle is where it's going to be very, very interesting. Some good matchups there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, well, that rounds out this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review, as it helps us improve the show. And as always, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Facebook. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.